Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going deep into the world of offshore finance
Ooh, exciting.
and international relations. We've got a piece from the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project,
The OCCRP.
OCCRP, yeah, for short, called
Yeah.
Ukraine, the president's offshore tax plan.
Okay.
So get ready,
All right.
because we're using the 5 whys technique to see how, one seemingly isolated event can just, snowball into global consequences.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Starting with something small and then ending with these major ramifications. And those 5 whys help us trace those connections.
Yeah.
Peeling back the layers to get to that root cause.
Exactly. So to set the stage, the Panama Papers were a massive leak of confidential documents in 2016.
Huge.
Yeah, that exposed the inner workings of Mossack Fonseca, a law firm specializing in creating offshore companies.
Yeah, think of it as like a behind-the-scenes look at how this world of offshore finance really works.
Right.
And it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
The sheer scale of this leak, 11.5 million documents detailing over 214,000 offshore entities,
Wow.
sent shockwaves across the globe.
Yeah, and one of the most striking revelations was a leaked internal memo
Oh, really?
from Mossack Fonseca that bluntly stated, and I quote, 95% of our work, coincidentally, consists in selling vehicles to avoid taxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That quote really captures the essence of what the Panama Papers revealed, right?
Okay.
It wasn't just about a few individuals trying to, save a little on their taxes.
Right.
This was systemic.
Yeah.
A deliberate effort to help the wealthy and powerful shield their assets and avoid contributing their fair share.
Okay, so we get this bombshell leak, right, exposing the underbelly of offshore finance.
Right.
But let's rewind a bit. Back in 2012, President Obama was making headlines for his strong stance on cracking down on global tax avoidance.
Yeah, remember even before the Panama Papers, there was this growing international concern about tax havens and the negative impact they were having on global economies. Obama's comments were a reflection of that growing unease, recognition that this was a problem that needed to be addressed.
So our first, why could it be that Obama's push for greater financial transparency was a direct response to the growing problem of global tax avoidance, a problem that the Panama Papers would later expose in shocking detail?
Absolutely. You could argue that Obama saw the writing on the wall, so to speak.
Yeah.
He recognized that unchecked tax avoidance was not only unfair,
Right.
but also posed a threat to the stability of the global financial system.
Huge.
And then just a few years later, bam, the Panama Papers hit,
Oh, wow.
revealing the extent to which offshore companies were being used for everything from tax evasion to money laundering to sanctions busting.
The Panama Papers blew the lid off the secrecy?
Yeah.
That shrouded offshore finance, showing how individuals and even entire corporations were exploiting these systems to hide their wealth and engage in illicit activities. And it wasn't just about financial wrongdoing. The Panama Papers had serious political consequences as well.
Oh, yeah.
The OCCRP article we have shows how Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko was using offshore companies to minimize his tax burden. This was a major revelation,
Absolutely.
especially given his position of power.
Yeah, this is a perfect illustration of how the Panama Papers went beyond just exposing financial maneuvering, right?
Right.
It raised serious questions about the integrity of world leaders and the trust that citizens place in them.
Yeah, so our second, why is it possible that the Panama Papers, fueled by the lack of transparency that Obama had warned about, directly contributed to a loss of public trust and political instability, as seen in the case of Ukraine's president?
It's certainly a plausible connection when those in power are seen as exploiting the very systems they're supposed to uphold. It naturally erodes public confidence.
But it wasn't just Ukraine. The Panama Papers triggered resignations and investigations worldwide from Iceland to Spain. The fallout was truly global.
Yeah, and here we start to see those dominoes really falling, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't just about individual wrongdoing.
Yeah.
It was about a systemic failure that had far-reaching consequences.
So why, number 3, could this widespread loss of trust triggered by the Panama Papers? Revelations have weakened diplomacy and international cooperation on a global scale.
That's a very insightful observation. The Panama Papers exposed a level of deception and self-interest that made it much harder for nations to trust each other and work together effectively. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand. It's
Yeah.
just not stable. It's about Trust, diplomacy, international relations, global cooperation, it all hinges on, a certain level of trust.
Right.
When that's shattered,
Yeah.
it becomes so difficult to address these global challenges effectively.
Right. And one of those global challenges that's been front and center lately is the conflict in Ukraine.
Oh, of course.
The Panama Papers revealed that Mossack Fonseca had clients blacklisted by the U.S. Treasury Department,
Great.
including entities tied to Russia. This raises a whole other set of questions about how financial secrecy can fuel conflict and instability.
Yeah, you're hitting on a crucial point here. The effectiveness of sanctions, a key tool in international relations,
Right.
depends heavily on knowing where the money is flowing, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to pressure a country or individuals involved in illicit activities, you need to be able to track their finances and cut off their access to funds.
So our fourth, why could it be that the compromised financial systems exposed by the Panama Papers made it more difficult to impose effective sanctions, particularly against those with ties to Russia? Did those hidden financial networks, those secret pathways of money, make it harder to exert pressure and influence on the world stage?
It's a compelling argument. Imagine trying to stop a leak with a sieve.
Okay.
If you don't know where the holes are, the water's just going to keep flowing through.
Right.
The Panama Papers revealed that the sieve, in this case the global financial system, was riddled with holes.
And to take that analogy a step further, you could say that those leaks, that flow of untraceable money, might have even contributed to the current conflict in Ukraine.
Yeah.
If it's harder to track and control the flow of money, it becomes easier for bad actors to operate with impunity.
Precisely, the Panama Papers gave us this glimpse into a shadow world where money moves freely anonymously,
Wow.
often beyond the reach of law enforcement and regulatory bodies, and this lack of transparency creates an environment ripe for corruption, illicit activities, and even the financing of conflict.
Okay, so we've traced a path from Obama's concerns about tax avoidance to the Panama Papers, revelations to the erosion of trust and diplomatic failures to the challenges of imposing sanctions. But where does that leave us today? What does all of this mean for the average person who might not be dealing with offshore accounts or international sanctions? Is this just a story about the rich and powerful playing by their own rules?
Not at all. This is where our fifth why comes in.
Okay.
The Panama Papers were a wake-up call not just for governments and international organizations, but for all of us. It highlighted the vulnerabilities that exist in our interconnected world, vulnerabilities that extend far beyond the realm of offshore finance.
So what you're saying is that even though we might not be directly involved in these high-level financial dealings, the consequences of a compromised system, a system lacking transparency and accountability, can still impact us.
Absolutely. Think about data security, for example. If a supposedly secure law firm like Mossack Fonseca can be hacked,
Right.
what does that say about the security of our own financial information, our online accounts,
Yeah.
our personal data?
That's a sobering thought. The Panama Papers showed us that even the most sophisticated systems can be breached, that no one is truly immune to the risks of cybercrime and data theft.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just data security. Think about the erosion of trust when we see powerful individuals and institutions engaging in these shady financial practices. It chips away at our faith in the system. It makes us cynical and disillusioned.
Yeah.
It can even undermine our willingness to participate in civic life and hold our leaders accountable.
So it's not just about money laundering or tax evasion, right?
Right.
It's about this erosion of trust,
Yeah.
the rise of cybercrime, and the feeling that the system might be rigged against the average person.
Exactly. The Panama Papers, while focused on offshore finance, really exposed these deeper issues of accountability, transparency, and the concentration of power.
Right.
These are issues that touch every aspect of our lives,
Totally.
from the way our economies function to the way our societies are governed.
We've come a long way from Obama's initial call for greater financial transparency to the current situation in Ukraine. And it seems like the Panama Papers were a crucial turning point,
Yeah.
exposing this web of interconnected issues that continue to shape our world today.
Yeah, they weren't just a news story, They were a catalyst for change, sparking investigations, reforms, and a renewed focus on combating financial crime. But the fight for transparency and accountability is an ongoing one.
Yeah.
It requires constant vigilance and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
It sounds like we all have a role to play, even if it's just staying informed and asking the right questions.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after this deep dive?
I think the most important takeaway is don't be afraid to ask why.
Yeah.
Curiosity is a powerful tool,
Like just-
It can lead to a deeper understanding of the world around us and empower us to make more informed decisions.
Sure.
Whether it's about our personal finances or political systems or the global events that shape our lives. Asking why can help us connect the dots, see the bigger picture, and hold those in power accountable.
I love that curiosity is key.
Mm.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the intricate world of offshore finance, global politics,
Mm.
and the ripple effects of seemingly isolated events. We've covered a lot of ground today, from Obama's warnings to the Panama Papers revelations to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. We've seen how financial secrecy can erode trust, fuel instability, and undermine global cooperation.
And we've explored how these issues impact us all, even those of us who might not be directly involved in the world of high finance.
Right.
The Panama Papers were a wake-up call, reminding us that the fight for transparency, accountability, and a more just world is a fight that requires our collective attention and action.
Absolutely. And next time, stay curious, and thanks for diving deep with us.
Feel free to comment your thoughts or where you would like the conversation to go in a future cast. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.